The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell starts right now. Hey, Lawrence.
Hey, Jen, we have some predictions for you in this book, my favorite new book. It is a futuristic novel about our world 20 years from now. It includes a lot of stuff, our life with robots, all sorts of stuff, but also our politics. And I'm not going to tell you who the president of the United States is going to be 20 years from now. In this
Please,
book,
tell me.
In this book, I will only say she is a Democrat.
You had me at she. You had me at she.
Right. And the vice president, the only thing I'll say about her is she is also a Democrat. And Pete Buttigieg has a very important role in government 20 years from now, negotiating what they call the disunion, because the president of the United States is the president of only 39 states, the rest having separated in what works out to be kind of a divorce. It's all so fascinating. We're going to discuss it with Kurt Anderson when he joins us at the end of the hour tonight.
I can't wait. I always tell you need a book club because I always want to read every book you're excited about. So I'll look forward to watching that too.
This one is the best beach read of the rest of the summer, that's for sure.
Beach read for nerds. We love it.
Right. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thanks. Well, Donald Trump immediately tried to distance himself from the candidates who he endorsed, who lost in last night's election results. Donald Trump has been successful in some Republican primaries this year in destroying the careers of Republicans. That's all he's been trying to do so far. Donald Trump's only campaigning so far this year has been against Republicans, and it has been based purely on vengeance. New York Times columnist Jamelle Bouie, in his column titled Trump's Lust for Vengeance, says that vengeance is Donald Trump's one and only consistent pursuit in his second term as president. Jamelle Bouie writes, the principal aim of Donald Trump's second term is revenge. Trump is consumed by his lust for revenge. And so he has taken his revenge against Republican Senator John Cornyn, for example, who lost his Texas reelection primary to Donald Trump's endorsed candidate, Ken Paxton, in May. And Ken Paxton is so scandal-plagued that he is trailing in the polls in Texas to Democrat James Tallarico, a talented campaigner, the likes of which Ken Paxton has never faced. So Donald Trump's lust for vengeance could cost Republicans a Senate seat in Texas and control of the United States Senate in November. And Donald Trump's lust for vengeance could cost Republicans the House of Representatives, because Donald Trump's lust for vengeance has left him and the Republicans in Congress completely lost on the political issue of the year, which is now a two-pronged issue. It began as the struggle of affordability in this country, which has only been worsened by Donald Trump's war in Iran, which has rocketed up gasoline prices and made life all the more unaffordable. That leaves former Republican Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, worried.
The midterms right now, I'm worried because the generic ballot's over 6. So that's advantage to the Democrats. I'm worried that I'm not seeing the clear message from Republicans. What is the plan of why you should stay in the majority? What is your economic plan going forward? What are you touting as the successes that you've had already?
To Donald Trump, success is getting James Comey indicted for posting a photograph of seashells, even if the indictment is thrown out. To Donald Trump, vengeance is its own success. But voters don't see it that way. Donald Trump continues to play suicidal games with the economy while polls show voters trust Democrats more than Donald Trump and Republicans on the economy now. Donald Trump threatened 50%, yes, 50% tariffs on our biggest trading partner in the world and best possible neighbor, Canada. Those tariffs would, of course, be illegal and unconstitutional. And today, Donald Trump decided to delay the implementation of his illegal and inflation-causing tariffs on Canada, making everything we buy from Canada more expensive through tariffs that Americans now know are paid only in the United States by Americans. Donald Trump's years-long lying about other countries paying his tariffs no longer works, even with Trump voters. And so once again, Donald Trump did what Wall Street calls his taco move on tariffs, meaning Trump always chickens out. And nothing proves weakness more than issuing threats and then backing down from those threats. And that cycle makes Donald Trump the weakest president in American history on that score alone, the score of threats issued and threats backed down from. Donald Trump's the huge winner on that one in presidential history. Steve Rattner literally charts Donald Trump's economic failures on a regular basis and delivers his reporting on Morning Joe on this network. Today, Steve Rattner produced a new chart of Donald Trump's failure. In Donald Trump's inaugural address for this term, he said, America will be a manufacturing nation once again. We will have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have. And today, Steve Rattner showed the manufacturing job losses. Yes, losses during Donald Trump's presidency. Steve Rattner said bringing jobs home was a core campaign promise for Donald Trump. Factory jobs peaked under Biden and have declined by over 60,000 since Trump's inauguration. Donald Trump doesn't know that, of course, because the disgraced clowns working for him, very much including his Treasury Secretary, would not dare tell him information like that. Which is why the Treasury Department under Donald Trump's stunningly incompetent Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has lost more Senate-confirmed staff members than have ever left the Treasury at this point in a presidency. One important Senate-confirmed Treasury official, Treasury General Counsel Brian Morrissey, quit after Scott Bessent agreed to create a $1.7 billion slush fund for Donald Trump to pay criminals who attacked the Capitol on January 6th and tried to kill police officers and the vice president. Treasury Secretary Bessent did everything he could to deliver that money to those vicious attackers of police officers and attempted murderers. And he has not offered a single idea to improve the economic well-being of a single American other than those people who attacked the Capitol. Scott Bessent will probably be one of those people who spends the rest of his life trying to convince the world that he spent all of his time with Donald Trump in the back room, trying to talk Donald Trump out of doing bad things or trying to minimize the effect of Donald Trump's bad things. No one should believe a word Scott Bessent says now, or a word he might say in his memoirs, or in what will be his lifetime attempts in interviews at self-justification for the most disgraceful service ever offered by a Treasury Secretary of the United States of America. Aging politicians have had a tough time this year making their cases for re-election against younger opponents. Donald Trump has made things much worse for aging politicians. Donald Trump is an 80-year-old raving lunatic who on any given day could claim, as he did yesterday, that the Strait of Hormuz is U.S. territory, or some other certifiably insane statement like that. But Bernie Sanders is 4 years older than Donald Trump, and the kids still love him because he speaks their language of concerns and agree with him or not. Bernie Sanders' mind is as sharp as it has ever been. Betting on younger candidates against older candidates is more complicated than it might look this year, especially in Massachusetts, where the Boston Globe's headline for its report of its own poll of the Senate race there quotes a voter saying, "I'll vote for the old man." Ed Markey was the young man in Massachusetts politics when he won his first election to the state legislature at age 27. He is now the same age as Donald Trump, and he is running for re-election to the United States Senate for what he says will be his last term. A new Boston Globe poll shows Senator Markey with a 14-point lead over his primary challenger, Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton, who at 47 years old is 33 years younger than Ed Markey. Seth Moulton has a classic resume for success in Massachusetts, a Harvard graduate and a Marine combat veteran. But Stephanie Dealey told the Globe pollsters that, quote, while Moulton brings a lot of good skills to the table, she said she doesn't believe in voting out someone who's done a good job without good reason, and I don't believe that age is a good reason. It would be wonderful if he was 20 years younger, she said of Markey, but I don't think that he's showing any signs that his age is impacting his ability to do the job. Adam Tessier, a 39-year-old accountant who responded to the poll, told the Globe he is against geriatrics in Congress, but even he said, quote, "I'll vote for the old man." When Ed Markey was Seth Moulton's age, he too was a member of Congress, and he was waiting patiently to run for Senate, knowing that Ted Kennedy was going to remain the senior senator for life, and the junior senator, John Kerry, was just beginning his second term. That was the traditional approach to trying to move from the House to the Senate in those days. Wait your turn. And Massachusetts is a traditional place. Yes, Massachusetts is our most liberal, or certainly one of our most liberal states, but it is also a place full of tradition, including political tradition. And what Massachusetts voters might end up saying to Seth Moulton is, wait your turn. Observe that tradition. In the immortal words of the last Massachusetts congressman to serve as Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, all politics is local. Shortly after releasing their poll, the Boston Globe, the biggest newspaper in the state, endorsed Seth Moulton in the Senate campaign, with Election Day now 2 weeks away. And if Ed Markey wins his reelection, it will be because he does not exhibit the signs of age that Donald Trump exhibits every day, including appearing to sometimes fall asleep in meetings. But Donald Trump has never been competent to make a presidential decision at any age, as he demonstrates every day in new ways, including in his imagined relationship with the North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. When Donald Trump was a much younger man in his first term as president, he exchanged what he called love letters with the North Korean dictator.
I was really being tough, and so was he. And we would go back and forth, and then we fell in love. Okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters.
He was 72. That was after he threatened North Korea with nuclear annihilation in what he said would be fire and fury. And now Donald Trump, who spends his day attacking imaginary American communists, is trying to make nice with the worst, cruelest, most murderous communist dictator in the world.
Mr. President, are you exchanging written letters with Kim Jong-un?
Can't tell you that.
And are you hoping for
But I get along with him.
Are you hoping
and you know
for a
what? The
meeting
fact
this
that I
year?
get along with him, that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Are you hoping
He has
this year?
57 very powerful nuclear weapons. Should have never allowed it to happen. They should have never allowed it. If I were president, I wouldn't have allowed it. But he's got them. I get along with him very well. You can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And I know Kim Jong-un very well, and he's going to be fine. As long as we have a smart president, he's going to be fine. If we have a dumb president, then he's probably not going to be so fine.
Are you expecting to meet with him later this year?
Yeah, I will be.
Donald Trump reduced the American commitment to military exercises with South Korea this year and has complained that South Korea has refused to help him in his war with Iran. And now, in a desperate attempt to turn attention away from his war with Iran, Donald Trump is desperately seeking a photo op with the worst dictator in the world. Leading off our discussion tonight is former Navy pilot Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona. He's a member of the Senate Intelligence Committee and the Senate Armed Services Committee. He is also the vice chair of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee. And Senator Kelly, you are one of those targets of vengeance by Donald Trump. He tried to get you prosecuted for simply saying publicly what the military rules are about being able to refuse to follow illegal orders. And so you in the Senate, and you're not the only member of Congress who faced that kind of vengeance, attempted vengeance from Donald Trump. And I think we can say while he was pushing that, it's hard to find anything he achieved in government that helped anyone while he was trying to attack you.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. Not only did he try to indict me and send me to jail, for seditious conspiracy, for saying what is in the Uniform Code of Military Justice and the Law of War Manual and what is the law in the military. He also said I should be hanged and executed. I think the third thing he said was prosecuted. I mean, he's not even good at getting the order right? He even struggles with doing these things successfully. Hey, and then they tried to initially get me back on active duty and then reduce me in rank, take away my pension. And I have, I'm in the process of suing Pete Hegseth. That case is still going on. But Lawrence, this isn't about me. They're trying to silence millions of retired service members in a way that we've never seen before in the history of this country. Donald Trump, my view, he doesn't view himself as a normal executive, a normal president. He's living by different rules. The corruption we see from him and his family is at levels we've never seen before in history. And he's not addressing the issues that the American people need a president to address, which is keep us out of wars, reduce costs, help bring down the costs of healthcare, prescription drugs, gas, housing. Those issues are just set aside, and he is focused on vengeance and sucking up to dictators.
At the beginning of his war, he did seem to try to talk about increasing oil supply somehow, which would have been impossible since it's a worldwide commodity, to try to control gas prices in the United States. Now he doesn't even pretend to be making any effort at all in relation to gas prices and is just telling people he doesn't regret the gas prices going up at all.
Yeah, and it's not only him, it's the Republican yes men around him, even members of Congress that are just telling people they just need to suck it up. And this is somehow a patriotic thing. He took our country to war without a strategic goal, without a plan. Now he has no way out of this. And he's stuck. And this has been bungled right from the beginning. And he's got a Secretary of Defense who has no idea what he's doing. I think the most incompetent Secretary of Defense that we've ever had in our history. And the American people are suffering because of this. We also have 18 dead Americans, for no reason. And he's not talking about the gas prices and trying to do something about it because there's very little he can do. Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It's getting down to historically low levels. And if he doesn't figure out a way out of this, costs are just going to continue to rise for the American people. Now, I'd say the good news here is we've got an election coming up in November, and we can send a very strong message to this president and the people around him that they are doing a horrible job.
Senator Kelly, please stay with us. We're going to work on a commercial break here. When we come back, I want to get to the situation that crew members are enduring now on aircraft carrier Lincoln, the destroyers that accompany that vessel, the mystery of what's happening with them. We're going to be right back with Senator Mark Kelly. MS Now reports that the USS Abraham Lincoln's record-setting 9-month deployment at sea is coming to an end, but it remains unclear whether the 1,000 sailors aboard the 3 destroyers that accompany the Abraham Lincoln will be coming home. MS Now reports the destroyers have been deployed with the USS Lincoln since late 2025, according to the U.S. Naval Institute, surpassing the typical deployment length of 7 months. As of Monday, no orders have been issued for the 3 ships about when they will be relieved. That silence contradicts what Navy leadership told the families of service members at an in-person town hall on August 6th at Naval Air Station North Island in San Diego, according to 4 people who attended. MS Now senior national security reporter David Rode reports damage to the main naval base in Bahrain by Iranian missile strikes have limited the U.S. ability to supply U.S. ships in the Gulf of Oman. U.S. officials with knowledge of the matter have told MS Now the impact of the attacks was first reported by the New York Times in weekly press conferences earlier in the war. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth downplayed the effectiveness of Iranian attacks and said Iran's military had been decimated. Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona is back with us. Senator Kelly, first to the situation with the Lincoln. What is your understanding of the status of the Lincoln and the accompanying destroyers?
Yeah, Lawrence, I spoke to the grandmother of a sailor aboard Lincoln and the parents of a Marine aboard one of the amphibs in the region. And I've got a little bit of experience on Lincoln, spent some time on the ship. I've got carrier landings aboard that ship, and I've spent a lot of time on aircraft carriers. It sounds like the conditions are unacceptable, and the mental health situation there for some of the sailors is really challenging. They literally had somebody jump overboard the ship because of the challenges they're facing. So the military, the Navy needs to address this. I think they will. I have little to no confidence in the Secretary of Defense here. He dismissed this as not a problem, and they've done everything perfectly. I think part of that is because he works for Donald Trump, a man who just is not capable of ever accepting responsibility for anything that goes wrong. And because of that, our sailors are suffering. Now, it'll be good to have that ship back. It'll be replaced with another ship. And we've got to figure out better ways to resupply those ships to make sure they have what they need.
And Donald Trump's approach apparently is to just lie about it. He's invented a retired Navy admiral who he refuses to name, who's claiming that he, the Navy admiral, has been shipped out at sea longer than the Lincoln. Everyone knows the Lincoln set the record. There's no dispute. There's no record of any other Navy vessel staying out there that long. And Donald Trump is just lying and saying, oh, sure, they've done it many times before.
And he also said he wants this deployment to be longer, just so it's longer. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, this guy's supposed to be the commander-in-chief. He's supposed to be looking out for our service members. He's supposed to be making decisions that are in the best interest of our national security. And he gets us to this war in Iran with no plan. And now he is just completely stuck and he doesn't know what to do.
Senator Mark Kelly, thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me on.
And coming up, Senator Jon Ossoff is running for re-election in Georgia while calling Donald Trump a crook and infuriating Donald Trump by identifying Donald Trump's favorite travel companion. Senator Jon Ossoff joins us next. Here is our next guest, Senator Jon Ossoff, campaigning for re-election yesterday in Columbus, Georgia.
I think that it's so fitting that we're here in Columbus today with so many extraordinary veterans, service members, military spouses, and civilians who support the work of our service members here with us, here just down the street from Fort Benning. With you, Mark. Because I don't think anything illustrates the times more aptly than that the draft-dodging crook president who has plunged our nation recklessly into a war he knows not how to end or to win, tried to imprison this man who embodies American heroism, a decorated combat veteran, naval aviators, astronaut, space shuttle commander, U.S. Senator. Donald Trump tried to lock him up for daring to state in public a fundamental principle of military law.
A new Reuters Ipsos poll finds 63% of Americans believe it was inappropriate for Donald Trump and his family to profit from cryptocurrency after he returned to the presidency. 69% say Donald Trump's private business interest influenced his presidential decisions. In a campaign speech in Atlanta on Sunday, Senator Ossoff turned the corruption focus on his Republican opponent, Mike Collins.
Now remember, Mike's already under federal investigation for illegally funneling tax dollars to his violent staffer's girlfriend for a no-show job. Do you remember that? But Mike Collins also repeatedly broke the law hiding his crypto trading. Because he's like a scandal piñata. But every time you shake him, more misdeeds fall out.
The Office of Congressional Conduct referred Mike Collins to the House Ethics Committee regarding his use of congressional resources, which he has called a, quote, nothing burger. Mike Collins has denied doing anything illegal with his crypto trades. In that same speech in Atlanta on Sunday, Senator Ossoff, to the outrage of the Trump White House, said this.
They've lied nonstop about this war like they lie about everything. And they know they're lying, but they lie and they keep lying anyway because in this White House, they view persistence in deceit as a virtue. You hear me, Atlanta? And there's something uniquely despicable about lying a nation into war. Treating citizens as fools and those who serve as pawns. Aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln, they've now been at sea for 240 plus days without a port call. It's a Navy record. And still they serve with excellence. And still they serve with excellence. God bless the sailors, Marines, aviators, and all aboard the United States ship Abraham Lincoln. See, they don't expect luxury. They'll endure hardship. But they deserve competent leaders who send them into combat only when necessary. And with decisive clarity of purpose, not fools who lie about the purpose and progress of war. And while the sailors on the Lincoln fight his war, while he fruitlessly drains our munitions and oil reserves, the president sleeps through his meetings. He golfs and trades stocks. See, he doesn't want to do the job. He wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar.
Joining us now is Senator Jon Ossoff of Georgia in his campaign for re-election. Senator, of all the things you've said about Donald Trump, and there are many, this is the one that apparently bothers him and everyone at his White House the most. You said, we just heard it, he wants to build his ballroom and travel with Natalie on their apparently defenseless flying palace gifted by the Emir of Qatar. Why do you think that's the line that bothers Donald Trump the most?
Lawrence, it's been amazing to watch this White House melt down over this all week. And about Natalie Harp, these White House staffers are adults, public officials paid by the taxpayer with immense power in positions of public trust. And whether it's Natalie Harp printing out Donald Trump's daily dose of delusion and flattery, or Peter Navarro steering taxpayer-funded loans to Trump family investments, or Pete Hegseth deluding the president daily into deepening this quagmire in the Middle East, no one cares about their feelings. The sailors on the Lincoln are fighting his war, a war based on lies, while he plays with his new ballroom, flies around on a jet given to him by a foreign prince, and retreats into this circle of sycophantic aides who tell him every day what he wants to hear, not what he needs to hear. This entire White House is responsible for lying the country into war, and for the rest of their careers, they will be known for having participated in this obscenity.
As I listen to you make this case in these speeches, especially in the full context of the entire speech, there's a flow and a logic to this. But there are people out there who believe that you are deliberately trying to carve out these little bites that will specifically provoke Donald Trump. Is that what you're doing, or are you just trying to communicate to those voters what this is all about?
I'm trying to make sure that folks in Georgia know the truth about this administration. And apparently, in the White House, the truth hurts. They've lied us into war after promising peace. They've driven inflation skyrocketing, thrown people off their health insurance, doubled health insurance premiums for more than 1 million Georgians after they promised to bring down prices on day one. And the president's done so enabled not just by hangers-on and sycophants in the White House, but also Republicans in Congress who have enabled him at every turn. And one of them is Congressman Mike Collins here in Georgia, the pro-war, pro-tariff, pro-cutting your health care, bigot congressman, Trump puppet who's running for the U.S. Senate. And Lawrence, I want people to understand the following, because I've heard some rosy predictions about this Senate race in Georgia. This is Georgia. This is the most competitive battleground state in the country. The president's allies are right now, as we speak, committing tens of millions of dollars to attacking me. I guarantee that within weeks, the polling will be within the margin of error. And there is no path back to the Senate majority without winning this race in Georgia. So if you are fed up with what's happening to our country and the lies from this White House and the war and the inflation, and you want to take action right now, pick up your phone, pick up your laptop, go to electjon.com, and help empower me and my team to win this crucial Senate race in Georgia.
The way you're campaigning and the language you're choosing, you must know, is inviting Donald Trump to unload all the resources possible to defeat you.
Well, the White House is obviously deeply offended when it's pointed out that they've broken every promise they made, that they've lied the nation into a war they know not how to end or how to win. And yes, I expect them to spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to try to win this Senate race in Georgia. When I unseated Perdue back in 2020 and 2021, Lawrence, they wound up spending almost $300 million to try to fend me off in that race. This is a crucial and competitive battleground state. I'm going to continue telling the truth, and I'm asking folks to help at electjon.com.
Jon Ossoff, thank you very much for joining us tonight. And coming up, as I told you on this program last night, if you are concerned about what is at stake in our elections, you need to read an astonishing new novel by Kurt Andersen. It is titled The Breakup. It's about where our politics might be 20 years from now, with a new president in the White House and people who you know in our politics today being very active in our politics 20 years from now. Best-selling author Kurt Andersen will join us to talk about this story next. A one-of-a-kind book that only this writer could produce. That's what the Chicago Tribune is calling Kurt Andersen's brilliant new novel, The Breakup. The book takes us 20 years into the future to see how a politically divided country has decided to break up. Americans have been strange bedfellows in a mixed marriage for a long time. We grew apart, we stayed together, but finally came to find each other impossible. We fought. We had irreconcilable differences. We finally split. In a world where half the marriages unravel or rot or die of thirst or blow up. A cliched question about America since I was a kid concerned our national political fever, if and when it would ever break. The fever broke, along with our beautiful, uncomfortable, brittle, breakable, antique national governing arrangements, now being rebuilt and refurbished. It could be worse. A national divorce occurs in the breakup instead of an all-out 19th century style civil war. Like many divorces, it begins angrily and in the later negotiations becomes more practical and understanding and not so bad. In this imagined American future, Chris Murphy is the Senate Majority Leader. Abigail Spanberger is the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, now dealing with the USA's closest neighboring country, the Free American Republic, which includes half the land of the United States, but only about 1/4 of the people. Pete Buttigieg is the Disunion Commission chair, the national divorce mediator of sorts, trying to sort out the future of Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid in the breakaway states. Alyssa Slotkin is the vice president of the United States, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is president. Purely fictional characters populate the leadership of the Free American Republic, where, according to news reports, 20 years from now, some secession remorse is taking hold among people who are watching their hospitals close and are now living in a country with an economy 1/7 the size of the remaining United States of America, which includes all of the biggest and richest blue states. Some states, like Montana, go back and forth about leaving the Union, but in the end, 39 states vote to stay. In the novel, we tour the disconnected landscape with the parents of a high school student doing what has become, by that time, an old-fashioned college tour, visiting campuses in both countries. And we learn much of the new etiquette of the mid-21st century, including where to stand on an elevator with robots. We had training sessions last month to practice what will happen when the robots start riding along with the rest of us instead of in robot-only elevators. The main lesson was about their default positions at the front of cars, because some people feel uncomfortable with robots behind them. And on the left side, particularly the tall walkers, since robots communicate with the elevator via ultra-wideband and don't need to push buttons. In the future, 20 years from now, rendered in the breakup, Donald Trump is no longer with us. And although we have a collection of trillionaires, not all of them completely bad, Elon Musk is no longer among them, having, quote, overdosed en route to Mars. Joining us now is Kurt Andersen, the author of the New York Times best-selling nonfiction books Fantasyland and Evil Geniuses, and now the author of a movie-worthy work of fiction titled The Breakup, which is now available online and in stores. Kurt, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and thank you so much for this book. I told Jen Psaki the other night, this is what I've been reading. To feel, actually, among other things, the import of these election nights that we're having right now, that so much is at stake in the present as we imagine what the future might be. You've taken this imagination all the way up to 2046, and it is just beautifully told, and told in the shape of a divorce, the kind of story we've seen people go through, fearing the worst at the beginning, finding ways that turn out maybe to be practical ways of coexisting. What got you on this path?
Well, I started with this idea that I wanted to write really a book about the future, America. You know, I'd written these two nonfiction histories that you mentioned, and I decided that the way to do that future is what I've done for previous times, which is to say fictionally, with a novel. Because thinking about it, I realized I could write a book saying, oh, this could happen, this happened in Yugoslavia, whatever. But to me, the future of the United States, of anywhere, is fiction. You know, it's all speculative, and until it happens, it's fiction. So that was the way to go. Plus, I decided I wanted to see how this went down and how life exists in the aftermath of the breakup and the Civil War through the eyes of two people I hope are sympathetic characters living through it and having their own issues with their 23-year-old marriage that has political issues in their conflict, but other also incredible conflicts over technology, which has, as you suggest, has progressed as it will in 19 years. And she grew up in Tennessee, Natalie. He grew up in Los Angeles, suburbs of Los Angeles. She was working class, he's not. So they began with differences, as in that passage you read, so did America. So does America, and that's part of its, of course, magnificence.
I love just futurists alone should have an interest in this, whether they, even without caring about the politics. You don't have to care about the politics to be just swept away with this book. It is, you're just holding a great movie in your hands, and the pages turn themselves. But on the framing of it in terms of divorce, what I found so fascinating about it was that what people discover in divorce, as painful as an idea as it might sound at the beginning, and they discover it might be years down the road, it's very common for them to discover, oh, it wasn't so bad, and or in many cases, oh, it was definitely the right thing to do, and everyone is better off. And so we're only about 10 years into the workings of the divorce in this book at 2046. Do you imagine that in the next volume of this story in 2066 that people would be feeling, it was probably the right thing to do under the circumstances?
Well, I left it, as you know, ambiguous about what happens, and it seems as though that possibility is very much there. And certainly, the husband in this marriage is, hey, this is great. And when there was the Civil War, and then when there was this movement to break up the United States, unlike in the Civil War 170 years ago, there was not the pushback to save the Union at all costs, which was Lincoln and the Union's desire back then. This is like, okay, good riddance. And so, and it is painful, and it would be horrible, peaceful or violent. But, as you say, in the end, many divorced couples find, among other things, it's better for the kids in the long run. And so I think that could well be the case in our national instance.
It is a great read, and it doesn't matter whether you think it is likely or possible. That isn't the point of a novel like this. It is a wonderful work of the imagination. Kurt, thank you very much for joining us tonight. This has been a delight for me. It's just been the summer read, and I'm urging it on everyone.
Thank you so much.
Kurt Anderson, The Breakup. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. We will be right back. Kurt Anderson gets tonight's last word. His book title is The Breakup.